Today we're making one of my very favorite sourdough recipes. It's easy chocolate sourdough discard muffins. They're easy, impressive, dome tops, chocolatey. Honestly, they're a #1 seller in my bakery and I love making them because they're so easy. Let's get to it. All right, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is preheat your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I know that sounds really high, but we're gonna do a little bit of a double baking method here. So what we're gonna do is bake our muffins at 425 degrees for the first 5 minutes, then we'll turn the temperature down to 350 and we'll continue baking. Now that little trick is gonna help make sure you get really tall muffins with that domed top so they look like they came from a bakery. Trust me, they're super impressive. And you wanna line a muffin tin. Now I have 2 muffin tins here because this is gonna make a dozen muffins. You wanna line it with just paper liners. If you don't have a paper liner, you can just spray this with some nonstick spray. Another little tip that I've got here is that you can see I'm spreading out my muffin liners and I'm skipping one space in between each muffin. And what this does is it's gonna allow more airflow while these muffins are baking, which is gonna also help them to bake up nice and tall with those domed bakery style tops. All right, now we're gonna whisk together the dry ingredients for our muffins. I've got 240 grams of all-purpose flour, and then I've got 45 grams of cocoa powder. I'm using an extra brute Dutch processed cocoa powder here. It's my absolute favorite. Ooh, we want to get it all. And then I'm going to add 13 grams of baking powder, 3 grams of baking soda, and 6 grams of salt. Now all of these ingredients, the whole recipe is going to be down below in the description, and it'll be done by weight and by volume. So if you don't like weighing out your ingredients and you'd rather use your cups and teaspoons, that'll be down there too. So we're just whisking together our dry ingredients to make sure they're all incorporated. This is one of my favorite recipes to make in the bakery because these muffins are really impressive. They're absolutely delicious and it's so quick and easy to put together. And if you make sourdough bread, I know you have sourdough discard and this is a great way to use it up. So that is it for our dry ingredients. We're gonna move on to the wet ingredients. All right, we're moving on to our wet ingredients and we're just gonna whisk these together. I've got 200 grams of sugar here, 2 eggs, and again, you can just dump all this in the bowl and mix it all up. So I've got my sugar, I've got my eggs, I have 120 grams of oil. I'm using avocado oil, but you can use vegetable oil, olive oil. I wouldn't use a really strong olive oil, but you can use an olive oil, whatever you have. I've got 185 grams of full fat sour cream. Listen, this has got sugar and chocolate. Don't use the low-fat sour cream. It's not a healthy recipe, but it is delicious, okay? So we've got our sour cream in there. I'm gonna add 60 grams of milk. And then I'm gonna add 125 grams of my sourdough discard. Whenever you're using your sourdough discard in baking, you don't wanna use the discard that's been sitting in the fridge for the last month in the back, because that's gonna be a very pronounced flavor. It'll be very tangy and very tart, and you just don't really want that in your baked goods. It won't taste good, okay? So use discard that's like no more than 3 or 4 days old. And then I'm gonna add some vanilla. So I've got 10 grams of a really good vanilla. Use what you have. And then we're just gonna whisk this until it's smooth. I'm gonna make a little bit of room here. And let's just whisk this together until it's nice and smooth. It is important that you whisk this together. Sometimes the sourdough starter or the discard, if you've taken it right out of the refrigerator, it will be difficult to incorporate. So I like to take my sourdough starter out first, weigh it out, and then just let it sit for a little bit so that it's room temperature. That way it's a lot easier to incorporate into my muffin batter than when I'm using cold discard. All right, so we're just gonna whisk this up. It's nicely combined, and that is it for the wet ingredients. All right, now we're gonna add our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients, and we're just gonna stir this until it's combined. If you wanna make sure that you don't over mix your muffin batter, that's really important if you don't wanna have dense muffins. So I've got my wet ingredients. I'm switching to a rubber spatula here, and then I'm just gonna mix this until it's combined. And then once we get this combined, we're gonna add in 315 grams of chocolate chips. Now, I am using a semi-sweet chocolate chip just because that's what I prefer. I think it actually pairs really nicely with the cocoa powder in this batter. So it's absolutely delicious, but use whatever you prefer. So we're just gonna mix until we don't see any more dry bits of flour on the bottom of the bowl. I also like this recipe because not only is it quick, but you don't even need to use a mixer. You can do this entire thing by hand. Okay, there we go. Now, I've got 350 grams of semi-sweet chocolate chips here. I'm gonna pour most of them in, but I'm gonna hold back a little bit just so that I can sprinkle them on top of my muffins once they're in the muffin liners. That kind of just makes it look a little bit better after they're baked because you'll see those chocolate chips on top. So let's just gently fold in our chocolate chips. And you guys, we're almost done. I mean, I think it's been like 5 minutes. These are gonna be in the oven in no time. Okay, I'm gonna get my muffin tins. We're gonna get them loaded up and we'll bake them. I'll be right back. All right, now I'm gonna fill my muffin liners and I'm gonna try to fill them pretty full, okay? And I like to use one of these ice cream scoops. It just makes the job a little bit easier. Now, because I'm using these tulip liners, I'm not actually gonna fill them all the way to the top of the tulip liner. I'm just gonna fill them all the way to the top of the cup where the muffin liner is, or where the muffin is in the pan. So I'm gonna take a nice big scoop here and just right in the liner. Now, I'm filling these pretty full because I want big, tall, bakery style muffins. And this is how you get them. You fill that liner pretty full. Almost there. Okay, I've got a little bit of batter left. Ooh. Do you see me flinging chocolate chips across the kitchen? That's like a normal thing for me. I'm like the messiest baker that you ever met. So I'm just looking at these and seeing which ones look like they could use just a little bit more muffin batter because I don't want to waste any of this. How about that one? Okay. More chocolate chips everywhere. Okay, now I'm gonna take those extra chocolate chips that I had, the ones I didn't put in the batter, and I'm just gonna sprinkle them right on the top. Just a couple in each muffin liner. And this way, after they bake, when they come out of the oven, they're gonna have really pretty muffin tops with some extra chocolate chips on top because honestly, extra chocolate chips never hurt anyone, right? Okay, perfect. All right, there you go. Now we're gonna put these in the oven. Remember, we're gonna be using our double bake method, our double temperature method, where we're gonna bake these at 425 degrees for 5 minutes. Then we're gonna reduce the temperature to 350 degrees and bake them for about another 15 minutes until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. That's how we'll know that they're done. And remember, we've got this extra space in between each muffin cup so that there can be more airflow while they're baking in the oven, which is gonna help them to bake up big and tall and get those signature tall domed tops that you wanna see on a bakery style muffin. So let's go put these in the oven and I'll be right back. And here they are, easy sourdough chocolate discard muffins. So good. Look at how beautiful these are. They're big bakery style muffins. Those chocolate chips on top just put them over the edge. And if you are a chocolate lover, these are so good. Take a look at this. This is just a delicious chocolate muffin. Let me show you what the inside looks like. So good. Oh my gosh. Give these a try. I think you'll love them. Super easy to make, a great way to use up your sourdough discard. And if you're looking for some help with your sourdough bread making, watch this video next where I show you the 10 mistakes that most beginner sourdough bakers make.